Hello Andrew, we're at ARyG Nov on the 10th of November 2010. You asked about the damage to your gate, which is minimal. Someone's rolled forward in their machine and crushed the woodwork a little bit. I won't number it. This is number one. I'm about, I don't know, quarter, third of the way up the hill. Really encouraging to follow that first section of fence, because gradually, year on year, it's nice to come across a fence that's improving, you know, and we're actually succeeding. It's looking strong, it's looking stock-proof, which is great. Of course, the further I go up the hill, probably the less inclined I was to hump stakes all the way up here, so we're starting to get to the weak point now. Have a look at this. We're again getting to that sort of stage where one stake after another gets a bit floppy. Let's continue the process, I say. Bring, I won't say how many stakes yet, let me go a bit further up, but we're going to have to start bringing some stakes up and hopefully repeat the good work that's been happening down below, he said modestly. That's number one. Number two, I'm approximately this far up. Bit of a, for my reference, a bit of a bend in the fence right next to, what is this, a rowan, and I'm about this far down. So a bit like Kermit, I suppose. Perhaps I'm slightly more than halfway up. Anyway, bottom section, I said I would report how many stakes I wanted. I'm going to have 10, I think. 10 stakes to move the repair works further and further up the hill. There's a middle section, which is dense in bracken, where thankfully, it could be psychological because of the humping and dumping required, but thankfully the stakes seem relatively decent. But now I'm moving out of that brackeny bit and I suppose into the top section, and again I'm getting too floppy, too many stakes one after another after another after another. So I shall count later, but at some point I need to come down to this rowan, which is pretty much halfway down the hill, at a bend in the fence. That's number two. Alright, more as a guide to myself than anything else. Where's that wonky post? There's that wonky post, which I did a certain amount of work on last year. From there, down the slope. Oh, have a look at this on the way. There was some mention that perhaps huge sheep were getting from one side to another. There's a few places where it's weak at the bottom, it's a bit high off the ground. And perhaps there, I don't think so is my gut feeling so far, however, it's conceivable. If I put 10 stakes in, from that wonky stake up there, sorry about the filming, down this steep bit to my rowan, which is lurking there somewhere down there, another 10 stakes, and I had the 10 stakes brought up from the bottom for the section I mentioned earlier. That would, ooh, green woodpecker, that's nice. If I did that, I would fill any of these slightly dodgy places where there's a biggish gap beneath the fence, at the same time as sorting out runs of snapped off stakes, which make me slightly nervous as well. So things would be looking pretty good if we did that. And of course, going back up here to this stake on the corner, from there up was largely where I was putting in stakes last year, which means we're getting there on this section of fence, I think. I'll call this number 3. This is number 4, immediately above the wonky stake, and this is definite evidence of something coming underneath, albeit some time back. Disguising itself. under thick algae or whatever it is. That is wool hanging there on the bottom of the fence. So, we are coming underneath. Let's make a concerted effort to block up these things. Perhaps one more stake here to hold the fence down. Number 4. Okay, I'm at the top of the hill now, and I think we're making headway, which is good news. There's a couple of small gaps underneath the fence where I know what I've done. I've gone down, I've had a whole stake, and it's taken me all the energy to get it halfway down the hill. And I thought, oh, just to pin the netting down, I've got to use my whole stake. It would be a good idea, since I've got nothing down there that's suitable for blocking holes, to take a couple of stakes that have been cut up before I go down there. Take maybe one stake that's been cut into 3 pieces and one stake that's been cut into 2. If you take those down there, you've got something that you can just staple onto the bottom of the netting and hang there to block up some of those gaps. There's another fence going off down the hill here. I've no idea what it does or where it goes even. I don't check that one, it's just a point of interest. That one never gets checked. Well, this section's getting rather tired here. We've got a break in the barbed wire and a lot of rotten stakes that are all starting to snap. Is that the break? Yeah, that's the break in the wire. And a load of stakes that are beyond service. I'd bring 4 stakes and a length of barbed wire to fix it. It's a tired old bit of fence, but it can be botched for another year, I think. That's number, oh dear, 5 I think. Number 5. Number 6. Again, this is just a point of interest. We have another internal fence here, which, just to make sure you're aware of it, never gets checked. It's the one going down the hill here. Number 6, point of interest. This is number 7, where we have some fairly high ground right on the sheep side of the fence. There's a couple of places, and in fact you can probably see some wool here. Yeah, here it is, a very high bit of ground, and an attempt to skip over the barbed wire there, I think. In which case, bring 2 stakes and 6-7 meters of barbed wire to sort out both of these low points in one fell swoop. That is number 7. Number 8, bit of a gap appearing underneath the fence here, where there's a bit of a dip between 2 stakes. Bring 1 stake and a piece of barbed wire that'll strap between the 2 stakes. Number 8. Okay, number 9, this stake is broken off at the bottom, as you can see, leaving a gap here. Just bring a stake. Number 9. Number 10, that's a bit of wool. Bring a stake. Number 10. Okay, this is number, 11. Bit of a gap under the fence here. Just bring a stake, knock it in. It's not far from ARyG Gate. Just as an aside, I've shown a couple of internal fences that I'm not maintaining. Well, now I care to look for them. There's internal fences all over the place, so I won't bother recording anymore. This here is number 11. Just bring a stake. Here we are, number 12, just passing ARyG Gate. These holes are rather frighteningly large, and there's I don't know if you can see that. There's wool all over the fence. So we definitely have sheep present around here. Bit of a hole there. Bit of a hole there. A long section of barbed wire to go to and fro across that gap 2 or 3 times. I'll probably sort that out quite nicely if we want to do that. Number 12, that's number 12. This is number 13, I'm bang opposite ARyG Nov, and the lower strand here is not quite in the right place. I'd be tempted to put a strand of barbed along the bottom here to stop sheep going underneath. There's a fair amount of wool here, quite fresh actually, stuck in the netting, which suggests they lifted it up at this point. Yes, you can just see some there. At number 13, that is. Number 13. Number 14. If you were around with the chainsaw, it would make eminent sense to get this lot off the fence. That's actually the root plate there that's sitting on the fence. Got pushed over by the rowan behind it that's also dangling over the fence further along. Here we are, number 15. This straining post I'm looking at now is completely hovering at ground level. There's no connection, and unfortunately it has an immediate near neighbour who is also not much better. Let me give that a little push. You can probably see that's not doing a lot either. Yeah, definite need for replacement of straining posts along this section here. Number 15. This here is number 16. We've got a succession of fairly crummy straining posts. This is a typical thing, completely rotten at the ground level. Right the way back to ARyG Gate. I think this is number 4 or number 5, that kind of order. Straining posts that need replacing. The stakes are, you know, bearing up, and it's a shame to let it go because the netting is tidy and it's actually still doing the job. Number 16. Okay, this is number 17. I've come right down the steep hill on the northern end of the reserve. Those are the double gates at the bottom. Not strictly speaking within my realm, I don't think. This fence that comes down to the riverside. There's this wooden section jutting out to stop the sheep. And however, if you look closely there, you'll find that there's wool amongst all this debris from the river, and that sheep are in fact coming to and fro underneath this point here. That's number 17. So what are we going to do about this one? If you wanted to fix it, then perhaps you could stick in an extra stake at this point. I think the tip can go amongst the rocks down here, although it's not very clear on the video, and it could get nailed onto the two wooden rails. An extra stake with a little section of netting tacked to it. I think that would resolve that problem. That's number 17. Number 18. I don't think we need to do anything immediately here. However, it's just a note that rot is starting to set in, even in these nice new fences. You can stick your hand in this hole here, right through to the heart. That's in, I'm in the paddocks now. I wouldn't do anything because it'll probably still be here next year and perhaps the year after. Number 18. And back to the starting point. I reckon we're making progress here. It's a good feeling walking around this site. Yeah, there might be a lot of numbers on the map, but I think you'll find that they're small jobs and blocking little holes. Before, when we first started, it was all about pulling out straining posts and replacing them, so things are looking good. We could do with some new straining posts along the forestry section, but elsewhere I think the biggest job we've got listed is putting stakes in, which is fantastic. So yeah, I had a good feeling going around. Better feeling than ARyG. ARyG, I did the external fences yesterday and the sense was we're going downhill. But here, no, I'm pleased, we're doing well.